Okay, so bring in the very next applicant for the Double D's co-host position.
Yes, hello.
How are you, sir?
I'm fine.
Your name is Julio Sanchez.
Yes,
correct?
yeah, Julio, yeah.
Okay, Julio. So let me tell you a little bit about what we're looking for here. We're looking for the next Dom.
Okay.
We're looking for a guy that has the very same qualities that Dom has. Dom left Japan because he doesn't care about the listeners of the show.
I agree.
So now we're left with finding a replacement.
Okay.
So I'm just going to ask you some questions here, and you let me know how you feel. All right? Ready? Okay.
Yeah, let's go, man.
You're at a party.
Okay.
Everyone's having a good time. You walk up to the bar, and you ask the bartender for A, Jack and Diet, or B, something a man would drink.
Oh, I'm a beta male. I go with the Jack and Diet because anything else is too strong.
Great answer. Next question. What's your position on anime?
Oh.
How do you feel about anime? How do you feel about comic books and things of that nature?
I don't like reading much, but I watch comic books and I've seen Dragon Ball animes and stuff.
Okay.
And I like it. I could talk about it.
All right. One last question. You're doing great so far.
Yeah.
Lastly, your position on white women is what exactly? If we all knew Dom, we knew that white women were his thing. How do you feel about white women? Let me know.
My parole officer is a white woman. Most of my creditors are white women. My arresting officer was a white. I love Julio and his white girls.
Thank you.
It's
There's
me.
no shut the fuck up. Listen.
Okay.
There's no reason to even talk to any other candidates. You are hired, sir. Welcome aboard.
God. Yeah.
You're listening to the Double D's podcast.
I'm Dom.
I'm D Respect.
He's got a great set of tits.
I get so angry thinking about this kid.
Because that's what most people are bitching about.
In New York, you know what I mean? We like to eat out here.
You gotta stop looking at interacting with people online as a cheap date. My father used to drink.
Get the fuck away from me! Hold on!
I come a lot, by the way.
You're doing the rap stuff.
If you didn't say it, somebody in the comment section would have said it.
It's like how you feel when you're having a paranoid high.
That's a dynamic connection right there. You're listening to Double D's. I'm D Respect, and I'm D Respect. That's right. This is a single D's, not a double D's. Dom is in Japan, so you will have to put up with my ranting and my fucking mouth for an extended period of time. But before we get to all the fun stuff, I want to let you guys know, I want to remind you guys that the Double D Skitcast is in the description below. What is the Double D Skitcast? The Double D Skitcast is a assortment of audio sketches, 10 to be exact, constructed by myself and Mr. Rab Run. For the low price of $9.99, you can get a hold of the Double D Skitcast on your mobile device or on your big clunky desktop computer. It does not matter. The Double D Skitcast is available on Amazon. It's available on Google Play and iTunes. You really should check out this project. It's something that Dom and I put a lot of thought into. We put a lot of hours into it. Those of you who have gotten the Skitcast can attest to this, that it is just the perfect complement to anybody who really fucks with the show, whether you fucked with the show for 6 months to 2 years to 3 years. The Double D Skitcast is really the experience that we wanted you to have, and I think Dom and I did a great job, and $9.99 really isn't asking much considering what we gave you guys on there. What do you got on the Double D Skitcast? You have a review, a fictional review from the #1 album reviewer in the world, Anthony Fantano, reviewing Baked Beans. You had the origin story of Mupuluktu. You've got Donald Trump's other vice president selection, not Mike Pence, but the Great Little Quack. You also have Kendrick Lamar literally pimping a butterfly. I want you guys to understand this. There is a sketch on the Double D Skitcast that you need to hear. It is Kendrick Lamar literally pimping a insect with wings, flapping around. The Double D Skitcast is a great experience, and if you fucked with the show for any period of time, it will appeal to you. You will understand it. You will get every single joke. It's not obscure within the Double D's universe. It is open to all of you, to listeners of any length, a period of time. So please, in the description below, for the low price of $9.99, I hope I sold it to one of you. Things like this count if you can convince one person. If you can convince one person to get it, then you did your job. It's not about the masses. It's just about getting to that one guy. And those of you know, I do this for the one guy. Also, what I want to let you guys know is now that I've moved the Double D's podcast to the second channel, it's more of an intimate thing with me and you guys, with Dom and you guys. It's an opportunity for us to really band together and to really get some support from you that is very simple. On this channel, there's never been a lot of viewers to this podcast, but this channel consistently, in about a matter of a week, of course, not counting, the people that listen to on iTunes, but on the channel itself, we always get about 800 to 1,000 views on the podcast. If 300 to 400 of you could be as generous, as nice as to just clicking, so I can't even speak English right now, as to clicking the like button right there on the video, it would help the video out so much in terms of analytics, in terms of getting it out to other people that haven't seen it. So if you could like the Double D's podcast right now, I know you've listened to fucking hundreds of, well, not hundreds, it's only been 160 something episodes, but I know you've listened to many episodes and you've just listened to it and you've never hit the like button. So more than helping out on iTunes, what I want to urge you guys from now on is to help us out on YouTube and to just click that like and just be kind and click that YouTube like. You'd be surprised that it will do wonders for the show. So please, if you could do us that favor. So now that we got all that bullshit out of the way, okay, now that I talked your head off and, like maybe 50% of you have already clicked off because you're not listening to Dom talk and it's just me. Well, you're going to have to put up with it. As I said, Dom is in Japan. This is a trip that he normally does pretty much every year. Most times that I've done this, I've been able to replace Dom with a certain somebody that I won't mention. But right now I'm doing it by myself. And so the show's going to be structured a little differently. There isn't a person to bounce off of. When you guys are listening to the podcast, what you don't see is sort of the rhythm and the flow of the show. Dom needs me just as much as I need Dom in order for us to transition and to toss the ball around so we can seamlessly go into different items to discuss. I don't have anyone here other than Julio, but I interviewed him already, and it actually turns out that I fired him because he assaulted several women, and there is a video surfacing online right now about him and grabbing women by the totos, and you guys don't want to know about that, but he's been fired, he's been taken care of. But while we're on the subject of leaked videos and while we're on the subject of grabbing pussies, did any of you guys see the third debate just the other day? I certainly did. These debates have been very entertaining. At the very least, it has been a great example of how people love conflict. We love conflict as much as we tell ourselves that we are such positive beings. We love to see a car wreck. We love to see just a total mess. You will probably never see another debate that is as petty, is as childish as the other debates, including this one, as all of the debates put together that we've seen. You're never going to see that again. And you should appreciate that. You should appreciate the fact that there were so many moments in these debates where Hillary just responds back to Donald. Donald is always going to be ignorant. He's always going to be ignorant and immature. But there are moments where Hillary bounces back to him and sort of just sticks out her tongue like neener, neener, neener. Just a quick response, just a reflex, just to shut him up. And you have to appreciate those small moments where these politicians, Hillary in this particular case, where they allow you to see just how petty and immature they can be. We'd love to think of these people as noble leaders, as people who we want to empower to lead the country and to lead us in the world. But they are not exempt to anger and frustration as much as politicians have always wanted to show us that they are. You know, how they just smile at the camera, something that Hillary, you know, of course she still does. And I cringe whenever I see it, when she does that little guilty smirk when she looks at the camera. You got to appreciate that, because you're never going to see that again. You didn't see that in the previous years when you saw Mitt Romney debate Barack Obama. You know, something that I've said, it's like it's watching two cucks be aggressive with each other. They're politely being aggressive. It doesn't work. They're politely being aggressive. And both, of course, very presidential. And Hillary, of course, is what is considered to be, quote unquote, presidential. That's another thing. That's one thing that Trump sort of bought out of people. Trump sort of changed this idea that for years and years we've always said, I want my politicians to be real, bro. I want my politicians to be honest, and I want my politicians to say what's on their mind. Now, all of a sudden, you have someone who, yeah, he's not a politician, but he's running for political office, and he's saying what's on his mind. He's literally saying things like, wrong, you're terrible. Why? At one point, he told her, why in the hell didn't you do something over your 30 years in the Senate? And he's using language that everyday people would use, and we can't stand it now. We hate it. We hate it. For years, we've always wanted somebody to be like this. And maybe there will be a middle ground. Maybe there will be somebody who will run for office. You know, I don't know. Like, I can't. Right now, what I'm trying to figure out in my head is how to, like, multiply in fours. And I'm just like 20. Like, nope, that's not a 4. That's not a 4. In 16 years, fuckers. Okay? How about that, huh? I think I can't do math. In 16 years, maybe we'll find someone who is articulate and isn't vulgar, but says what's on their mind, and does it in a very tactful way that it sort of marries together that rawness, but still being very professional and being very articulate. You know what I'm saying? So that's where this whole non-presidential idea comes in. And I feel like we're regressing back into something that we thought we didn't like, and now we're pretending like we really want it. You know, we got what we asked for in Trump, but it's too much of an extreme. You know, it's too much of an extreme. You know, almost to the point where you hear the video and, you know, grab the pussy and all this stuff, and you find out that somebody is exactly who you thought they were, right? Dennis Green was a coach in the NFL for many years. He coached the Bears. He coached the Cardinals. Or did he coach the Bears? I'm not sure. No, he coached the Vikings and the Cardinals. This particular rant that I want to bring up. So Dennis Green loses to the Bears, and I believe he's the coach for the Cardinals at the moment. And in the press conference, the only thing that he has to say to the media after getting his ass whooped is, the Bears are who we thought they were. They're who we thought they were. That's it. And we let them off the hook. One of the best sports rants that you'll ever hear. He's so frustrated. He's so frustrated that we didn't prepare for exactly what we thought we were going up against. You know? So Donald Trump was exactly who we thought he was. In a intimate conversation with hot mics, where he's not aware that the cameras are on. He's on set in Access Hollywood, and he says exactly what you would figure him to say. It's a very different position, because had Hillary been caught, with a hot mic, what would have surprised us is if Hillary would have been different than what she's presented. But this is what I got to let you guys know, and what I talked about last week on the podcast is this person who says that there are 300 million people living in the United States. There are 300 million people living here, and I am the person that's going to lead us to the promised land. I'm the person who's going to get us there. Do you think presidents are betas? Do you think presidents are introverts? Are people who don't have colorful or strong personalities? You think a yoga instructor is going to run for president? Bruh. Do you think a therapist, somebody with a background of a therapist, is going to run for president someday? Of course not. A-type personalities run for president. Even President Obama, who presents himself as a cuck and as this well-mannered man who yields for the most part, there's an ego that's in there, man. There's this huge ego that's just eating away at him. It's just so much desire that's eating away at President Obama. And the same can be said for Hillary Rodham Clinton. If she was caught with a hot mic, she would have said something filthy, something self-aggrandizing, something that it's something inside her that's eating her up. It's of course it's not misogyny. Maybe it's a thirst for power. Maybe it's something. There's something that yearns inside of you when you say, I am going to be the leader of the free world. I am the truth. It's a part of that person's personality. So, in Hillary, obviously, you can find it up on YouTube right now. You can find the video where she's found laughing at Gaddafi's death. We came, we saw, we killed him, and almost this fucking sinister laughter. It's fucking terrifying to think that she's gonna be president, just like it's terrifying to think that Trump can be president. So you basically have a shit show, and I've already shared my views on voting and what I feel. So I won't go down that avenue with you guys, but that's what I'll say. I'll say that same personality is what creates that. That's what begets that sort of behavior. That yearn that's inside of you. You've got big sexual appetites, or you've got an appetite for money, or you've got an appetite for power. There's this deep appetite in you that was exposed out of Trump, and it's been exposed out of Hillary. But most people decide to ignore it. But I'm just over here sipping on my tea. What can I say? I'm going to move on to another item now, because I don't want to talk about, but there's only so much I can talk about politics, and people are just going to just go on and on and on about this shit, especially for the next coming weeks. And I'm going to, feel like I want to kill myself, basically. I had a personal thing happen to me over the past week, right? So I met this young lady, right? Let's crowd up together, guys. Let's get together here. I met this young lady on a website, and she seemed like a very nice person. We hung out one time. We hung out for a very extended period of time. The one time that we hung out. And I've never been on a date like this. I've never been on a date with a person where we openly discussed our flaws. Never did that. Even within the date, we were getting into conversations about us not needing to be discussing what we're discussing at the moment. You understand me? For example, you could be talking about your ex, with this person on the date, and you say, well, I know I'm not supposed to be saying this. And the person's like, no, let's be free. Let's let go of all these rules. And you have one of those very self-indulgent conversations that last the course of of 8 hours, because that's how long my date was with this particular girl. I didn't realize it at first, but looking back now, basically what happened was I noticed that the line of communication between her and I after the date seemed to distance itself more and more every day. Whereas we were keeping a close line of communication, and not that I need that, but it's just you got to observe the way a certain person moves. A person can send you a text message and tell you a particular thing, but you've always got to pay attention to the actions. The actions mean everything. They mean everything. So the line of communication was getting wider and wider and wider. And what turned into getting a text message, 45 minutes after you text message them turns into the next day. Next day turns into, stuff like that. So we were supposed to hang out, right? And I had called her earlier that day to confirm, right? To call and say, hey, I get out of work at this certain time. Please let me know what your status is going to be later on tonight so we can meet up. She decided to get back to me in like 7 hours later. She hits me up. And by the way, what I left out of this story was the week previous to that, we were originally supposed to hang out on a Saturday, but we hung out on a Friday. So that Friday we had said, okay, let's see each other again the next day. That's cool. Let's see each other again the next day. We don't care about rules, all this crap, right? So that next Saturday that we were supposed to hang out, she canceled on me about like half an hour before we were supposed to meet up. So you fast forward to the weekend where we were supposed to hang out again, and I called her, as I said earlier, to get confirmation. She hits me back 7 hours later. Then I had this thought, and this is what I want to bring to you guys. This is what I want to offer you guys. And Dom and I talk about women all the time on the show. And we understand that most of you who are listening are males, of course. There might be one or two females listening to this podcast, and you are broken women, and I have no clue why. No, I'm just fucking with you. We probably have a very small amount of female listeners. Please, if you listen to the show actively, please, fucking email me, send me a snap. I want to know what you guys think of the show. But we know that the majority are men, are young men coming up in this world, and you're trying to build confidence with women. These stories aren't just told to, hey, yo, I was with some bitch and that's not what this is about. This is about your personal growth as well as my growth, because no matter what stage or what age you make it in life, the opposite sex is always going to be a mystery. It's always going to be a mystery. You'll never master the opposite sex. You can be in a relationship with somebody and you still have no fucking clue what the other sex needs, or it just doesn't happen. You can get more of an understanding, but you'll never have a complete, overview of the whole situation. So when she got back to me after 7 hours, I thought, okay, so if I decide to call this person back and to say, oh, hey, great, I called you at this certain time and you call me at this time, okay, let's hang out anyway. I'm going to excuse that you think that it's okay to let that much time pass by without confirming with me. This is a Friday night, okay? This is a Friday night. And I don't know about you guys, but I work 40 hours a week. When you work 40 hours a week and you're an adult, your weekends are important. If you decide to go out that night, if I just decided to stay in and record something, that's one thing. But this was the sort of Friday night where I'm like, no, something has to happen today. Something has to happen today. So I'm not just going to wait around for you so then about an hour before we meet up, you can say, yeah, we can hang out, because my whole thing was, well, I don't know if you're going to take this whole time to cancel on me again. So I decided to text this girl and I said, hey, I hit you up about, I didn't say about anything. I said, I hit you up earlier. Wasn't sure what your status was, so I made other plans. Let's hang out next week. And then I put a little wink emoji. Now that wink emoji may be me being petty. It could have been, but at this point of the situation, it's just, who gives a shit, right? Now, what I didn't expect was that half an hour later, she texts me back and she goes, oh, whoa, that's disappointing. Well, okay, have a good night. And to me, that already felt a little salty. So I was just like, okay, maybe she's a little upset. But then it was confirmed. Because 5 to 10 minutes later, she texts me back and she goes, well, you know what? I'm not happy about this. I confirmed with you the other day that we were going to hang out and I was sleeping most of the time because I worked late. She works late hours. I got turned off by this. I think we should stop talking. Be well. The only conclusion that I could draw from this is the following. I was dealing with a selfish person. I was dealing with a person whom found it okay the previous Saturday to cancel with me about half an hour before we were supposed to meet up. And the fact that they see no correlation or just no likeness to what happened on Saturday and to what I'm doing now. And she gets up on her high horse and says, we should stop talking, is definitely an indication that I was going to deal with a selfish person, with a person who doesn't see what they do wrong. They only see what you do wrong, and that, and very impulsive too, to just say, I'm going to take my ball and I'm going to go home. And I was perfectly fine with it. I felt no reason to respond. They just deleted the number. It is what it is. When people say things like that to you, when they make such bold comments, I've learned that you got to let people own it. You got to let them own it. You got to let women own it. You got to let them marinate, because women they're very emotional compared to us, of course. And when she snapped at me and said, whoa, I don't think we should be talking anymore, I was relieved because I dodged the bullet, because she's a selfish person. And it gives you an indication of the type of guys that she's dealt with before. There is an older woman in the building that I live in, right? There's an older woman who lives on my floor. And this older woman, for whatever reason, I guess she's lived here for a bunch of years, and she's been a resident of this building for a bunch of years, and she knows a lot of people in this building and whatnot. And my apartment it's a sublet apartment, right? I've lived here for about a year. So the guy that's subletting the apartment to me, I spoke to him, and he told me that, I spoke to the older woman, and he had some complaint or something that she had said about me, about me slamming doors in the hallway when she's sitting in the hallway steps. Why she's sitting in the hallway steps, I have no fucking clue. So he said, yeah, she complains about that. But he was like, listen, she complains about everything, even when I lived in the apartment, and blah, 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 blah. So I looked at the situation the same way that I look at this situation, because it's all relative. It's all relative when you're dealing with this type of stuff. You don't want to reward somebody with shitty behavior. For the moment when the guy who sublet the apartment to me told me that the older woman had these words to say about me, I was thinking that the next time I saw her, I was going to say something to her. But then I thought that probably the real reason why she had this issue with me is because I don't talk to anyone in this building. I don't acknowledge anyone. I don't say hi to my neighbors. I'm not a very cordial person. If I'm with you in the elevator, I'm not going to make small talk because I just don't care for it. It's just the way I'm fucking wired. So what I thought is that, she feels that she's the Gambino here. You got to kiss the ring. I've been living here for about 10, 12 years, and you're not saying a word to me? I'm going to complain about something that you do on the hallway steps. That's what it was about. I'm not going to encourage shitty behavior. I'm not going to come to her and say, hey, whatever. Even if I go to her in conflict or say to her, hey, my name is blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to encourage her talking shit about me, and that's how she gets my attention. Now, if we bring it back to the female that I was dealing with, I'm not going to reward her for shitty behavior. I'm not going to say it's okay for you to take 7 hours to hit me back up, and now I'm going to take you out because, of course, I'm going to pay for everything, aren't I, right? Because I'm the fucking idiot, right? I'm going to fucking take you out, going to wine you and dine you and all this bullshit, right? Yeah, that's cool. Not going to happen, bruh. Okay? So that just lets me know that the guys that she was dealing with before, they congratulated her for shitty behavior. I made a contribution the other night. I made a contribution. I helped out the guy that is going to end up with her because she learned a valuable lesson. The lesson is that if you treat people a certain way, you cannot be surprised of what you get back. If you don't treat people with the amount of respect that you would want for yourself, then you don't deserve that respect. So hopefully that is a lesson that she learns. Hopefully I am just merely a part of a process for her where this happens 2 to 3 more times, and then she'll understand, like, oh, well, shit, okay, maybe I'm being a bit of a shithead. Maybe I should, tone down the princess stuff. You understand what I'm saying? On my end, I would say that my error, that maybe sometimes I commit a lot with the women that I've been meeting ever since, I've been apart from Miss Respect, is I tend to get into very intense interactions with women, right? We get into very intense things. Obviously, look, I'm a guy I'm fucking rambling. I've been running my mouth for about half an hour right now. Do you think it's a problem for me to have a conversation with women? It's not that is my jujitsu. That is my art. Okay. If I meet a woman on a website and I get her phone number, I'm going to meet up with her because I have dominated the art. I've mastered the art of conversation. I run my mouth here, but what I do for the most part is ask questions. I get them to talk about themselves, and we bounce back, and eventually we develop a very good flow. Now, the problem with that is that I tend to get into very intense topics that you should really never get into it. And I don't even mean politics. Politics is maybe surfacing now because of the election, obviously. But getting into intense, like very, very life, very spiritual, very philosophical things. And I think the problem with that is that when I do that, there's almost a certain emotion that I think that other person feels like I'm supposed to be aware of. When you connect with people on that level, I would argue that certain conversations that get very intense, 2, 3 in the morning, you're having pillow talk with somebody, it's in the dark or whatever, you're at the back of a bar, you guys have, half empty glass, whichever way you want to look at it, half full or half empty glasses of wine, and you're just talking about your hopes and your aspirations. And there's a tendency, I think, for the other person to sort of expect that you know them on another level now that you've heard these things. And that's where I think my mistake is. My mistake is that I just don't know how to hold back. And I have to censor myself. Definitely have to censor myself in the future. But that's all a part of the process of getting to the other side. Because as I said, you're never going to fully get a full grasp of this opposite sex thing. It's just, it's a complicated thing. And, whether some of you guys are 18 years old, you're 21 years old, it's all about giving yourself some value. It's all about telling yourself, okay, I'm dealing with somebody who is of the selective sex. Eventually she will have to choose me. There will have to be a point of where I'm seeking validation. But that point of finding that validation has to come after I have already demonstrated to her that I have a lot of value to myself. And the way that I demonstrated my value in that situation is I said, I am not going to let you get to me just later on as if I am a blip in your day. I bring a lot to the table. I will be the best part of your day. And that's how you guys have to think about it. It's not an arrogant thing. It's not a narcissistic thing, but view it as a realistic thing. Your time should be as important to you more than it is to anybody else. And anybody who's willing to waste your time isn't worth it. It was a lot harder, of course, in high school where, talking to females was the mountain. That was the mountain to climb, was to open up communication. That was the big mountain. But now that you get into your, I get into my 30s now. There's other battles going on now, but we won't get into all those battles. Maybe on a later date when Dom is here to run his mouth along with me, because he's just as much as a emotionally damaged single person as I am. Dude, this whole situation, the situation that's passed with Beanie, with Meek, and with the game. Well, actually, not specifically that. What I really want to talk about is a Beanie with Charlemagne. Really, when all that situation, stuff happened, I mentioned on the main channel that I have no interest in discussing matters of the streets. I am not a person that considers himself to be knowledgeable about any of that shit. I grew up in a neighborhood that was moderately violent, was moderately drug infested. When I first came into it, it was more drug infested. But as I, 4 or 5 years later, when I was older and paying attention to my surroundings more, everything was sort of just fading away, and the neighborhood just sort of became just a melting pot, just a mixture of just people who, there were obviously people who had, very negative thoughts and negative lifestyles, but for the most part, people were just everyday working class people. So I never considered myself to be anybody who was interested in the inner workings of, the streets. And that nigga had said that, and he said this, and then he knocked him out. When beefs turn into that, I don't know what I'm commenting on anymore. I don't know whether I am, whether I'm feeding the internet's need to look at black conflict as like gladiator, like they're watching the UFC, whereas I would like to think that a battle is not to say the UFC isn't not to say that ultimate fighting isn't an art form, but I mean just in the sense of just fighting and just two people just beating the shit out of each other, and which is basically what the news is basically turned what brown violence is. It's entertainment for the world, and the internet has a chance to not make it that, to see it through another way, basically. So I choose not to comment on that. And when Beanie got knocked out and all that stuff was going on, I kind of lost interest. He had his interview with Charlemagne where he got into Charlemagne's face, and actually Beanie tells him something that I think I could relate to, and if I were to be interviewing Beanie, it would definitely apply, because Beanie tells him, why Charlemagne is saying, well, why didn't you, you were saying all these things about Meek before, that he's a bitch and he's all that, but you're still hanging out with him, and Beanie just goes, you're not qualified to ask me that question. I guess what he means by that is, you don't come from our world. That's a separate world. You don't come from our world, Charlemagne. You don't come from that violent background. You're not qualified to ask me that question, because I guess what he's trying to say is you wouldn't understand it even if I explained it to you. And which I think it's not a unreasonable thing to say. I think in Beanie's sort of violent nature, he goes, shut the fuck up. You're a bitch in my mind. You're not qualified to ask me that question. But what I really think he's saying is, dude, we're never going to see eye to eye in this situation because we don't have the same mindset. That's not me saying I'm better than you. That's not me saying I'm more of a man than you, because he can accept that Kanye isn't of that mindset either. Beanie can accept that Kanye isn't that same type of person, but at a certain point, it was Rock La Familia. They were all together. But just because somebody isn't from your background or of your ilk or of your mental state, that doesn't make them any less than you are. It just means you're on different wavelengths. But if you have the same goal, if you have the same amount of drive, then you guys have something in common. So I don't think it was something that was said to Charlemagne as to sort of, make him look like a beta male. It's like, dude, we're two different people. And you're coming along into my world by asking me that question, and we're not going to get to anywhere. I think that people normally, they mistake what, well, I don't want to say that. I think what we should pay attention to when we're watching interviews, and, you know, I'm speaking from a perspective of somebody who has not a very vast experience in interviewing. You know, obviously, you know, I work in media. I'm obviously working in broadcasting right now. But I don't have a great deal of experience as far as interviewing, but interviewing is something that I've done. It's something that I witness a lot, that I examine, that I watch, because I think all areas of the art form that you're trying to master, you should at least acknowledge all areas and just look at it with a, not that necessarily you'll delve into it or consider that to be your forte. You don't want to be a jack of all trades and master of none. Just be aware of those other lanes within your art form. Interviewing, to me, is a lot about loyalty. It's about who your loyalty is to. If you listen to Charlemagne, his loyalty is to you. It's to the audience. He doesn't care if he makes the artist feel uncomfortable. It's not about the artist. It's not about the artist being comfortable. If you listen to somebody like Zane Lowe, his loyalty is to the artist. Zane Lowe does everything that he can to make the artist feel comfortable. Almost to a fault when you saw him interview Drake, and he didn't ask Drake a single question about ghostwriting. Just to say, I don't know if this was sort of a manager. I would have to think that it was a pre-screened managerial or a publicist situation where it was like, listen, we're not going to answer any questions about Quentin Miller. We're not going to answer any questions about ghostwriting. We're not going to answer any of that shit. So don't ask it. But again, even if it wasn't the case that there wasn't some pre-screening with the Zane Lowe interview and that didn't happen, I would think that since I feel like Zane Lowe's loyalty is to the artist, he wouldn't have asked it anyway. He wants the artist to feel comfortable, so then the artist can give him everything. It just divulge all the intimacy that he wants to get out of them. Charlemagne is the exact opposite. He wants to take it. He's not going to wait for you to give it to you. He takes it. He takes it. Why did you do this with Meek? I kind of feel like you're being a hypocrite. It's definitely a different form of journalism, if that's what you want to call it, because any interview, anything that starts with, hey man, I feel like you've kind of been a bit of a hypocrite lately and all this stuff, you're already starting from a point of accusation. You're already picking away at the artist, and I won't go as far as to say that his intention is to get a rise out of the artist, because I don't think it is. I genuinely don't feel like that is Charlemagne's goal. I think that Charlemagne is he's very stuck to the truth, and he wants to know the bare bones truth, and because he wants you to hear the truth. We all want to know. We want to break the fourth wall. That's what Charlemagne is there for. Personally, if I was interviewing somebody, I wouldn't take that approach. It's very confrontational. And Charlemagne is very lucky because look, the Power 105 studios are in the AT&T building in New York City. I believe it's the AT&T building. This is downtown. This is a huge corporate building. You know, you probably need IDs to get upstairs. It's one of those things. If you're going upstairs to visit, they write you off on a little paper. You go right upstairs with your little fucking goofy sticker. It says visitor on your chest. It's that type of a building. So it's not like anybody who gets in Charlemagne's face can just punch him in the face and just go crazy and just walk out of the front door. Security is going to fucking have you escorted out, and you are assaulting somebody in a corporate building. I don't know if there's more legal ramifications to that, but I would think that you would be extra fucked as opposed to if you punch somebody inside of McDonald's. You know what I'm saying? Or inside of some goofy guy's apartment in New York City who's just fucking blabbering into the mic like a madman for an hour. You know, so there's a big difference. So he has that benefit. He has that. He has a privilege of being able to talk to people in that certain manner, and you know, that sort of is what it is. You know, with regard to the situation with Meek and with Beanie, again, I feel that, you know, the details of it. If I'm clear on the details, you guys maybe correct me in the comment section. I guess the bare bones of it was when Game had released that record against them, which I believe was a 92 bars, and then Meek was going to go at Game. He then asked Beanie to come into the studio, or somebody asked Beanie to come into the studio, and Beanie somehow ended up on the track, and he helped Emilio, and he helped out Meek with their verses. Now, according to Beanie, he hadn't heard the song with Game, and he had no idea that Game bigged him up on that record. So he said had he known that Game bigged him up on the record, he would have never been on the record with Meek. That's what he says. Now, details of it are very confusing, but if I could get Beanie's basic point that he mentioned on the Tax Stone podcast, it was basically, this isn't about Meek. This is bigger than Meek. This is about Philly. I don't care. It could be anybody. Okay? And I can understand that. You see, but people, when you go at somebody, or if you vouch for somebody and you say things like that, people's reaction is kind of just like, well, of course it's about Meek because you're hanging out with Meek. It's about Meek. But, you know, I'm saying, look, man, I'm siding with Beanie here. I'm sorry. You know, to me, it's Beanie's just saying is like, listen, that's a slot. Meek just so happens to be the guy in the slot. Okay? I don't care who it is. It could still be Cassidy at this point. I don't care. It could be Gilly the Kid. Christ, I hope it's never Gilly the Kid. Listen, man, for years and years and years, as much as I've been, as I've started watching, you know, hip hop DVDs, you know, when hip hop DVD movement sort of started, you know, that really gave way to the rise of Gilly the Kid, if you even want to call it a rise. And Gilly the Kid is a rapper who, you know, he was with Major Figures. I forgot Major Figures' hit, but you know, he's from Philly. Major Figures. He had one hit, and every time he's on camera, Gilly the Kid is angry. You know, and his other claim to fame, of course, is that he says that he wrote most of Lil Wayne's work, and we're talking about like Carter stuff. We're not talking about wobbly 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 wobbly. We're talking about Fireman and on, you know. That's his claim to fame as well. But Gilly Kid always looks so angry on camera. Like he's always upset about something. He's always sticking out his chest. It's just he's always fucking upset about something. I don't understand Gilly Kid. But like I said, I hope that he would never be, you know, at the forefront of Philly hip hop. And, you know, of course, his time is come and gone. But what Beanie's trying to say is that it could have been anybody. It doesn't matter. So that's where I could understand what he was trying to tell Charlemagne as well, is that you're getting too caught up into Meek. You're getting too into the person who I was behind. I thought that there was conflict with a big dog from Compton, and he was coming at a Philly artist and not Meek. He was coming at a Philly artist, the biggest Philly artist. I don't give a shit if it was Meek. And now, you know, the new tape is surfaced that I guess Game had recorded about Meek, about Beanie, saying that he doesn't give a fuck about Meek because he never made any money from Meek and all this stuff. And all this stuff. Now it's, you know, it's starting to get into some weird, I didn't get money for this show, and just weird inner workings of the music industry, which is where I fizzle out. Very hard to listen to Beanie Siegel with his one lung. He had a lung removed, and that's why he has that sort of hissing voice. But it's very difficult to listen to him. And I would say he's almost unlistenable because it's not the same person. I mean, the lyrics are there. That's cool. I mean, Beanie's always been a good lyricist. He's never been an amazing lyricist, but he's always been pretty solid. And if, he were to have the lyrical capabilities of, say, a Nas, and his voice changed, then I would say there would be more interest to listen to him. But since it was sort of upper middle level of lyrics, it's just okay to listen to. It's just really okay to listen to. It's not that big a deal. Notes are very helpful when I'm doing this, and I'm really learning as I'm going along here that notes are very important if you're gonna do this shit. You just can't blindly just stare at the wall when you're behind the microphone. But you definitely need notes to keep you going. This hasn't really felt like an episode of Double D's. Like I just almost feel like even though it's just me, I have to sort of add a component to the show that would be Double D's like. I can't imagine what that is because I can't argue with myself. So I can't imagine what that could quite possibly be. But Dom will be on the next show because he'll be back from Japan in about 4 days. So maybe on that 6th or 7th day, we'll record and he'll let you guys know about all his Heroku and his Yashagamas and all that fucking stuff he got into over there in Japan. And I'm just over here in New York with my dick in my hand. Before I go, man, I mean, I guess I want to take this opportunity now that we've been talking. Those of you that have been listening to this this long, I commend you. If you've been listening to this point, please in the comics section, let me get say Reese's peanut butter cups in the comment section. I'm only saying it because I have a bag of Reese's peanut butter cups here. While I have you guys, while I have your attention, one thing that I definitely do think a lot about is, the subject of inspiration and motivation. It's been something that I've talked about many, many times. I've made videos on it. I don't make those type of videos anymore, but it's something. It's a theme that we discuss here at the Double D's podcast. I've discussed it on the main channel. Motivation is something that interests me a lot. It's something that always has. I'm always interested to know people's motivations behind things, and in turn, you tend to question your own motivations and your own path sometimes. I saw an interview with Kendrick Lamar and legendary music producer. God, I'm fucking forgetting his name, I guess, because it's getting fucking so late. Legendary music producer. The guy with the fucking beat. I cannot believe. God damn it. You would think that I would. Rick Rubin. God damn it. Legendary music producer Rick Rubin. He interviewed Kendrick Lamar. And he asked Kendrick a question about To Pimp a Butterfly, and it was something to the effect of, can you predict that this is where everything is headed in the future? I guess like maybe asking him, is this something that you're going to keep creating? Is this the direction you're going to keep going? And Kendrick had such a good answer. He had such a great answer to this, and it's something that I connected to. And he said, so he sort of said, my gift and my curse is that I always evolve. I always evolve. And that was me then. And in 5 years, there sort of be a different me. And I think that's really amazing. That's really an amazing thing to say, because you would think as an artist, he would feel like, yes, I'm making music that is woke. I'm fusing together jazz with hip hop, and I'm creating this sort of neo-soulish touch to it as well. It's something that we've never heard sonically and lyrically. I am piercing through to your soul, but I cannot guarantee you that I will be the same person in the future. As great as all this is, I cannot guarantee you that. And that's very interesting because, even when you create something so great, when you create something that's so timeless, as long as you're able to accept that it's existing now, that's what you did now. And what you do later is simply what you do later. And it will stifle you in the future present moment to hold on to what you used to be. If he decides to make another To Pimp a Butterfly 5 years from now, he's not going to make an album. To Pimp a Butterfly was To Pimp a Butterfly when it was needed, when he needed to do it, when he needed to get that out. And whatever album that'll be in the future is the album that it'll be in the future. Maybe there's something that he's able to communicate because there is no egomaniacal tone to the way that he speaks. Maybe this is something that even Kanye has articulated, you know, because obviously Ye has, he's made different music. Yeezus doesn't sound anything like College Dropout. My Dark Twisted Fantasy doesn't sound anything like The Life of Pablo. You know, he continues to change, but it's like, it's harder to see with Kanye, and it's so much easier to see with Kendrick because he has such a yielding personality that you can listen to the words a lot more. So that's a very interesting thought just to think of that. Now think about anything that you create and anything that you make now or anything that you have made. And if you're having a moment of blockage, if you're having moments where, you know, as Eminem would describe it on Guts and Fear, it's like you're afraid to make a single sound. It might be because you're holding on to this version of yourself. You know, our egos love work. We love go, 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 go. So maybe if you were more productive in the past and you're not productive right now, it's probably because you're so linked on to the motivation that granted you all that go, 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 go in the past. And you're trying to get every spackle of motivational peanut butter out of that jar, and it's gone. There's nothing else left. And there's simply something else that's going to propel you. Another emotion that's going to propel you, you know, whether that be a mixture of something that's internal and something that is external. There's just something else that's out there that is going to lead you to that. And to think of what worked in the past, to think of that is to regress. It's to take a step back and not go forward. And it's to basically go against the law of everything, because everything continues to move forward. You know, I don't want to get too fucking Eckhart Tolle on you, but you guys understand what I mean. You know, I think that's important. And don't just look at this as an art endeavor. You know, I've said this many times before, is that people look at what a creative person is and they think about a paintbrush. They think about a microphone. You know, they think about they think about singing. Creativity is understanding the rhythm of shit, man. You understand the rhythm of if you understand the rhythm of say, for example, it's me stalling. I'm trying to find a good example for example, if you understand the rhythm of how to prepare a frittata. You know what I'm saying? A frittata is like like sort of a casserole dish that's like made with with like eggs. And if you understand the rhythm and the care that's supposed to go into making that frittata, that's your form of creativity. That's your vision that you're putting on that frittata. You know what I'm saying? Whereas I'll look at that fucking frittata and I'm just like, you're frying an egg, and yeah, I guess I can follow the instructions. But you understand the rhythm of how it's made and why everything is done and how it gets to be to that point. Because it's those small appreciations that you can see that most people just see an egg on a fucking pan, you know? So everyone, if you are exhibiting, if you are in a space where you see it, you see the rhythm of it while it's going on. You see it while others can't. That's where you're exhibiting your highest form of creativity. That's where it is. You know, I love to listen to radio shows. And I love to listen to the balance of the conversation. I love the way the conversation goes back and forth. You know, there are times on this podcast where Dom and I were going back and forth, and there's just certain things that I look for to mention certain things. I mention one certain thing, and Dom does the exact reaction that I was looking for in order to open up the door so I can get into that space. That's only something that can be done once you understand the rhythm of something. You understand? So, figuring out that thing for yourself is something that I guess is unexplained. You know, figuring that out, that's up to you. But the universal understanding of what pursuing something that fascinates you, the universal understanding of it is just the details. It's in the details that you can see. Understand what the fuck I'm telling you? Listen, man. It's 2:37 in the morning. You know, I'm definitely going off the deep end here, but I really want you guys to think about that. You know, some of you guys, you guys send us messages and you ask us about these kind of things, and just understand that no one holds the key to any of this stuff. You know, there is no difference between me speaking to you right now and me 2-3 years from now, you know, speaking at a live Double D's event, you know, at a venue with hundreds. There's no difference. You know, the amount and the scale of it, the success of it makes no difference, because when the mentality is exactly the same, nothing changes. Nothing changes. You know, it's not, you're not waiting for the result to change your mind. Your mind is changed, and the result will come by way of that. You know, the result is a byproduct of your mentality. So in finding that, when you find it, you'll see exactly what I mean. You know, and that's what I thought about when Kendrick said that. You know, when Kendrick said that, I felt that, first of all, just amazement. Just amazement that somebody is able to detach themselves from that idea. From that idea of, I made this great fucking thing. And yeah, is what I'm going to do. There's no complacency there whatsoever. It's just like, dude, I moved on. So whatever you think about that record, that's fine. I have no fucking attachments to this stuff. I'm the worst person of 2015. Yeah, okay. We're off into something else now. New me. Excellent. I love it. I'm going to leave you guys with that. Notes are God, okay? when you're rambling on the mic for an hour. This was the Single D's podcast. Dom will be back next week. Please like us on YouTube. It helps the podcast out so very, very much, and it would mean so much to us if you downloaded the Double D Skitcast for just a low price of $9.99